Hey everybody, welcome to this edition of the Utopia podcast. I am CDJ. Joining me tonight, Tommy and Jeremy. Tommy, how's it going?
Pretty good. This spring football is here for Arkansas State, so it's starting to get me in the mood for college football. It's about that time of year, start getting ramped up for the game to come out.
Jeremy, how are you?
Doing good, thanks. Getting a little more information out there, so the masses are starting to get a little excited about the game, I see.
Well, when you're out there teasing them, I suppose that will happen. Last week was a very busy week. Lots of news came out. First off, the big news, the cover athlete has been announced, bucking the recent trend of different cover athletes for each platform. This year, one guy is going to grace the 360, PS3, and PS2 covers. Who else but Florida quarterback Tim Tebow? Tommy, do you like the selection?
Yeah, I do. I mean, Tim Tebow, to me, I'm not a huge fan of his personally, but at the same time, he personifies college football, in my opinion. I mean, you can hate the guy for all the media, how the media treats him, but you can't hate him for who he is, for what he does, and how he presents himself. All in all, he's a great guy, and he's a great football player. So to me, it's a perfect person to put on the cover.
Jeremy, was it just me, or after the EA videos came out, did Tim Tebow become a lot more likable?
Yeah, it definitely seemed through a lot of the posts after this video had come out. A lot of the guys kind of saw Tim in just a relaxed setting and seemed to kind of see the real Tim instead of the one that's being out there on the sidelines being interviewed by Aaron Andrews or whoever. You got to see the real Tim Tebow in the video, where you could tell he's a pretty good gamer. And he likes to mix up his teams, and I think it's a very good selection. I think a very famous person by the name of Will Kinsler said himself on Twitter, he's like, good thing about this cover selection is there's going to be people that love it, there's going to be people that hate it, but there's going to be everybody that has an opinion.
Yep, very, very true. Some of the minor details and news that came out last week, we'll get to that first. Gene Adams, the new art director for NCAA Football 11, we've seen his work with the new lighting system, the linear lighting that's coming to the game. He's on Operation Sports, and boy, wouldn't it be nice if he was at Utopia. He posted a GIF file of all the new and old face masks in the game, and we believe it's all of them. If not, I'm sure we'll get corrected. 42 total. Utopian Renegade 28 went through and pulled all of them out. Great work on his part. Some of these, I'm not a big face mask guy. Huge collection of them in the game. Obviously, people always want more, but a very, very good start. And we learned of 4 new mascots coming to the game. We have the Wake Forest Demon Deacon, the Orange from Syracuse, Oski the Bear from Cal, and Cam the Ram from Colorado State. But right now, let's get to the big news, the big feature that's been announced. And this is not the final feature for anyone wondering. There's more to come, but this is probably the biggest feature announced so far. And it's not just Jeremy's favorite song. It's called Locomotion. Tommy, let's talk about this. There's 3 aspects to it. First, acceleration. Down at the NCAA Football 11 community event, first thing we saw was a video showing 3 players with different speed and different acceleration ratings. Tommy, you are Bill Nye the Science Guy, our technical expert. Let's talk about locomotion and start with acceleration.
Yeah, acceleration definitely plays a huge part in the game this year. From the video that we saw, it was, like you said, they were differently rated, but basically a large spectrum between them so that you could kind of see how they distance themselves between each other. What was interesting to see is that 2 guys that had the same speed but different acceleration, as they should, they take off the line differently. The guy with the higher acceleration obviously get out to a bigger lead, but once they both reach their top speed, they both continue that same speed all the way down the field. It was really interesting to see that at midfield they had, let's say, a gap of 7 yards, and at the end of the field they had a gap of, again, 7 yards. It'll be interesting to see how that'll play into not only like long passes and stuff like that, but also just simply line of scrimmage tactics, a halfback trying to break away from a pursuing defender or something.
Let's skip ahead one aspect since you mentioned big plays. One change they've made to the game this year is the mocap for the long runs. I think we all noticed that it wasn't quite right, and what had happened was on long runs, we had the same run animation that kept looping over and over. Well, this year they set up a special mocap area, and they do this up in EA Canada at the world's largest mocap studio. They set up a 49-yard mocap area for a straight run on a breakaway play. So now if you get a breakaway, it's going to be this big run, and maybe you'll see it looped once if you have a play over 49 yards. If it's a big play, 49 yards or less, it will never loop, so it'll look like a one solid fluid run as you're going on a breakaway play. Jeremy, did you get a chance to see any breakaway plays at the community event? And if so, what did you think of this new mocap in the game?
Yeah, unfortunately, first round of the tournament, I went up against Shotmaster, the eventual champion, and I didn't quite take to his game plan of pounding the ball with Alabama right off the bat, and he was able to break a few runs on me here, and a couple of them were actually, at least one of them I know was about 50 yards. The animation definitely looks fluid. The thing is, I think maybe there's going to be some kind of an acceleration animation that may start for the first 5 to 7 yards, and then the rest of that animation kicks in. So you really are going to have to break a very long run, maybe even 3/4 of the field before you see any kind of looping.
Tommy, did you see it? And if so, what did you think?
Yeah, I saw a few plays where the player just completely broke free. It looked good, but it was to the point that it didn't distract me at all, which is a good thing. I mean, in the years past, you could run a breakaway run and it would be distracting, but now he has a breakaway and it just simply looks fluid. It looks really good.
The next aspect of Locomotion is the momentum. This is a big addition. This is really what the whole thing is based on, being a momentum-based engine, as they call it. Tommy, I'll let you explain this, what you thought of this in your time playing it down at the community event.
Momentum is huge. I mean, it takes away from years past where you could basically stop on a dime. I mean, you'd stop within 1 or 2 yards of just letting off the joystick. But now, if you were to go run full burst and then just simply let off the joystick, your momentum's going to carry you for 3, 4, 5 yards, however much it is. One of the biggest aspects you'll see it in is playing as a middle linebacker. I'm one that user controls a middle linebacker a lot of times on defense. In years past, you could pretty much cover the entire middle of the field with ease just because you could change directions so easily. But now, unless you have a top-tier athlete playing middle linebacker, you're going to have to be more cautious on your cuts and what you commit to. Otherwise, you could easily get beaten over the middle.
That was something at the community event that Damon Peterson from the sportsgameguy.com and we had a copy of NCAA 10 there sitting there, and we obviously were playing NCAA 11. We went into practice mode, and we took a receiver, and we'd have him run about 40, 50 yards, and we just let go of the controls. And the player would stop on NCAA 10 in about 2 yards, just about 2 steps, and he would stop, which obviously not realistic. We went over NCAA 11 practice mode. He would go at least 6 or 7 yards before stopping, and this is just letting go of the sticks. So momentum is going to be a huge factor in NCAA Football 11. Jeremy, what was your experience like with Locomotion as it relates to momentum?
Well, it really made things look smooth as compared. You could see the guys stopping on a dime previously. Tommy had said a lot of guys when you play a user online or play a buddy, a lot of those guys are going to use that fast linebacker because they're going to be able to basically cover that whole middle of the field when you're running and basically just plug you at the line. Now, with this new momentum system, that's going to really change the game. I'm going to be very interested to see how a lot of people play online this year now with not being able to change directions as quickly with the linebackers.
Tommy, how much will over pursuit kill people this year?
Oh, it's going to be huge. I mean, I think you mentioned on the website that if you try to not only if you, as a defender, if you don't pick a right angle, then you can easily get beaten that way. But then as well, if you pick the wrong angle and go for a big hit and miss, then you're going to be completely out of position. Your momentum's going to completely carry you out of the play, which again, that's a huge thing. It's going to completely change how a lot of people play the game. But it's also going to be good for ball carriers because they can kind of lead the play out towards the sideline and then quickly cut back in towards the middle of the field and, again, lead the defender out of the play. It's going to be interesting once people kind of adjust and really get used to the new control system to what all they can do with it.
Yeah, I think it's going to make a lot of people go back to the basics, especially on defense, because if you whiff with that hit stick, you're really going to be in bad shape. Especially the timing is going to be everything this year with your defense.
Another new aspect coming as part of Locomotion are some new animations. Tommy, I'll let you talk about this. It looks like very cool in action. Talk about what these are and how they looked in your opinion.
One of the big things that I liked was the new trucking system. In years past, you basically just flick the right stick straight up, basically as fast as you could. Now with the new system, you have to hold the stick up to actually lean forward and hold the truck down, basically. However, if you hold it down too long, then your player ends up stumbling, and depending upon his agility, depending upon several different factors, he could either completely lose his balance or slowly recover it. But as part of this, you can actually steer the truck as it's going, so that if you are trucked down and want to steer just a little bit to the left, then you can easily do so. And then as well, you can actually steer your body so that you can turn your body away from the hits, kind of protect the ball a little bit more. It really looks really cool. We didn't get to see much of it because they were just putting it in while we were down there. But when we did get to see it, it really was nice to see.
Jeremy, there's also some new animations in terms of the running backs, things they can do. Talk about those if you would.
In addition to the steering, you can also, if you got a defender on your back, there's going to be an animation where you're able to kind of swat behind you with your free hand and try to shake that defender off of you. So if he's trying to get that ankle tackle on you, you can kind of brush him back and be able to possibly break free. And then, like Tommy said, the trucking blocking. It's really sweet. Ryan Burnsides had come down and kind of showed us exactly almost every single move you could possibly do. He was just running up and down the practice field with it. It looked really sweet, especially, kind of the things where if you overdo things, you're going to actually end up messing yourself up. One of the cool things that I saw with the animations and the steering was on a punt return. I was able to do a spin move up into the middle of the field. I actually leaned forward and kind of tilted my right stick to just a hair to the left. I was actually able to steer myself to deflect off that defender, and I was able to go clearly into the end zone for the punt return. Really cool animation. Probably one of the coolest things I saw in the game down at Community Day.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Locomotion. Before we end the show, we're going to end it like usual with our tradition. Tommy, as of April 13th, first up, I hope you filed your taxes, but how many days are we away from the release of NCAA Football 11?
We are 2 days away from taxes. We are 91 days away from the release of the game. Still a ways to go. Still a lot of time for information to come out. Still a lot of speculation for us to go over. Basically, still a lot of time for people to get excited about the game.
And still plenty of time for people to speculate on what they may or may not have seen in recent screenshots and videos. For Tommy, for Jeremy, this is Chris. Everyone, thanks for listening to this edition of the Utopia podcast.